Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
So now is the time that we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves to one another. I'm Peter.
Joe.
Eric.
David.
Alzak.
I'm Kay.
My name is Michael.
I'm Wayne.
Ian.
George.
Lee.
Irish. Paul.
Greg.
My name's Ray Dyer.
Casey.
Jay.
Joe. Marvin.
Ronan.
Michael. My name's Michael.
Pete.
My name is Oswaldo.
My name is Brian.
I'm Ed Ing.
John. My name is Fred.
I'm Flynn.
My name is Jerry.
Tatwan.
My name is Tage.
I'm Eric.
I'm Jack.
I'm Andreas.
George.
I'm Shantanu Puka.
My name is Peter.
I'm Richard Azzolini.
My name's Jim.
I'm Carl Wolf.
Roger. I'm Jerry.
Is that everyone? And we also ask if there's anybody who's been here the first or second time to introduce themselves again so that we can say hello to you during the half-hour social hour after the Dharma talk. Is there anybody here who's new first or second time?
First time.
Greg. Welcome.
First time, Joe.
So we'll have that. Is that everybody else? Okay. So, John Mifsud has studied insight meditation for over 9 years and recently completed EBMC's Commitment to Dharma Program led by Larry Yang. He's currently in the Community Dharma Leaders Training Program at Spirit Rock. He's a lead facilitator of the EBMC Deep Refuge Affinity group for men of color and their Euro-descendant allies. He also studied with Rodney Smith at Seattle Insight Meditation for 8 years. John was also the coordinator of the Seattle Multicultural Sangha and spent 10 years on the leadership team of Seattle Dharma Buddies, a meditation group for LGBT men. So, John.
Well, good morning, everyone. I first want to deep bows to Roger and to Peter and to all of the people that create this space for us every Sunday, and to Baruch for inviting me to be here. So thank you. I am typically sitting among you, and I have many times, and so it's a particular honor to be here in this special seat, and I'm very grateful. So here we are sort of with the new year, and I thought that it would be good to talk a little bit. I know that one of the things that has always been up for me in many different ways has been the notion of identity, and especially as at Dees Bay Meditation Center, we refer to us as alphabet, LGBTQI, whatever. So we just say alphabet. So as queer people, identity is a circumstance where oftentimes it's joyous, and sometimes it can also be hurtful. So I'd like to start with a poem by Ravi Chandra, and it's called Clean Up on Aisle 3. Why is it that every kind of person out there has their counterpart in food? No matter if the skin's bleached or baked, epicanthus, blepharoplastied, turning almond eyes to permanently shocked lychee size. Let's face it, when your exterior complexion doesn't match your interior direction, you're on the menu for racial epicurification. The Oreo was the original food slur, a nicer way to symbolize a person whose insides and insights didn't match their standout outsides. Banana wasn't far behind for those who weren't bananas about their yellow hue. And coconuts, I hate to say, might look like me, but their brains are pure white matter. I wondered a time or two if I wasn't a tea egg, brown on the outside, golden on the inside, or a sweet potato, brown on the outside, Buddhist on the inside, or just a plain Reese's peanut butter cup, always in search of a Hershey's hug. I'd settle for a kiss. Yes, I'll admit it. I've spent hours in Safeway aisles just trying to figure out what or who I am. Call it existential hunger, only to realize that no matter what you look like, it's what's inside that counts. Which is why I'm a scrambled egg burrito in a tomato tortilla with black beans, basmati rice, guacamole, and sriracha, garnished with a sweet papaya chutney with a side of bitter melon. I'm good with tongues. Your stomach might not agree with me, and your nose won't know me, but I'm nutritious, guaranteed. And I'm on your plate. Your eyes have never seen a dish like me before, and I'm not just for breakfast anymore. So, a little levity as we approach what might be a very serious subject for many of us. And I do want to say that I developed this Dharma talk a bit ago, and I did it because I was on retreat for 10 days over at Spirit Rock. How many people have done more than 3 days of silent spiritual meditation retreat? Great. And of course, this exercise came from a teacher out of Denver, Colorado, Anna Douglas. So I bow to her for bringing it to me and to us. Because I'd been on retreat for 4 or 5 days, I found myself, pretty ready. And it was a good experience for me. So I developed this Dharma talk around that exercise. Of course, identity, we need identity in order to survive. And there are all kinds of different aspects of our identity. Sometimes we choose them, sometimes they're put on us. As many of us have experienced being in a marginalized community that experiences the systematized discrimination from the mainstream society. But like I said, it can be joyous, it can also be hurtful. I know that as a younger gay man, I was very involved as an activist in politics with the Gay Liberation Front back in the early 70s, and protesting and organizing, and organizing conferences, etc. I was in Ann Arbor at the time. I believe we had the very first Gay Pride Week in the entire country. And I believe we elected the first open lesbian to public office, Kathy Kozachenko, for the city council there. We were very active, but, my identity was very much caught up in anger and victimization, really. I really was like the queen of victim, and felt really hurt about it. So identity at the time was painful. And at the same time, we need identity to get through the day, and I don't want to challenge that today. We're just here to investigate it, to take a look at it. Buddhism is really an investigation, so that's my intention. So I'm 59 years old. I identify as Arab American. I am and an gay Arab American Buddhist. I'm a spiritual activist. Peter said that I help coordinate this group for gay men of color in Oakland. My day job, I'm the executive director of a nonprofit that develops affordable housing for people in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction. I was born in Malta, and I have dual citizenship. I'm currently single, and I helped raise 2 kids who are now grown. I think of myself as a progressive liberal, And, like Peter said, I'm in a couple of these Dharma programs. So, age, place of birth, residence, occupation, ethnicity, orientation, relationship status, parental status, spiritual practice, all of these things come into our identity. So I'm hoping that you'll take just 2 minutes, find a partner, and introduce yourself to them with as much of that information as possible. And then after you've done that, just share with your partner what aspect of that, of your identity, is the one that you're attached to, that you still feel has a lot of juice for you. And which is maybe one aspect of your personality that you feel easier to let go. When I was younger, being gay identified was like very, very important. When I was raising my kids, and 20 years ago, being a parent was very important. Those things are a little lighter now, whereas I remember when the United States first attacked Baghdad in 91, becoming Arab American almost overnight became of critical importance and has remained important to me. So what's going on there for you? Just a couple of minutes each. Introduce yourself, and then which aspect you're attached to still has a lot of meaning for you, and which aspect you can let go of. Quickly. If you haven't switched, please do. back. Just a few minutes to debrief then. How was that? What stood out for you? Anything?
Fast.
It was fast. You could have spent more time there, huh? Anything else? Yes. Say your name, please, so we get your identity here. As you people.
Peter, we're too old to fit everything in.
I'm with you on that one. Yes.
Well, my name is Andreas, and I actually found that these labels don't really describe who I am.
Beautiful.
I found that very important. Like, I had to dig a whole lot deeper to really dredge something up that I felt was truly reflective of how I see myself.
Great. Yes.
Oswaldo, the last thing that came up for us was you mentioned something about what aspects of it would be easiest to let go of. And that was a hard one, because I'm a blend of everything, all those sub-roles.
Mm-hmm.
So they seem to be all part of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's true, and yet I think we all have sort of, certainly I identify as somebody that's heavy set or overweight. That's something I could let go of, or I wish I could. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
Well, I think the thing that struck me most is I'm attached to being alive, and I'm working on getting to the point of being willing to give that up.
Yes, beautiful. And it's interesting because identity, of course, you need it to get through the day. I mean, we needed it to talk to one another or to go to work tomorrow or whatever it is that you do. Any part of your day is involved with identity. We sort of have to be here. And yet it's so interesting to me that the Buddha, 2,700 years ago, sat under this tree and said, okay, I'm not getting up until I figure this out, and came out with this concept of anatta, of no self. And I'm really interested in how science overlaps with the Dharma. So a part of what's intriguing to me is, like, for example, what would be subatomic physics, right? Where, they're saying now that all matter, all of whatever is like 99.99999% emptiness, empty space. So how did this enlightened being figure that out so long ago? And it's really remarkable too, because when you think about it, the nucleus of an atom, and the electrons that float around it. I don't know if you can picture that in your mind, but if you enlarged the nucleus of an atom to the size of a grain of sand, and you'd have to enlarge it 1,000,000 times just so that it would be the size of a grain of sand, the electrons floating around it would be the size of a dust mote, right? When you go into a theater and there's that beam of light and there are all those specks, that's a dust mote. And they would be enlarged 1,000,000 times, a half a mile apart. Well, that's a lot of empty space between a grain of sand and a dust mote. So it's a part of it is sort of like, what is, sort of the relative truth of our beings, and what it meant to introduce yourself by name, and those things that are important to you, and how you see yourself, and what is the absolute truth, two different things. And so part of the absolute truth for all of us in our bodies is that the typical adult has 19 billion capillaries and 60,000 miles worth of blood vessels. Side by side, they would circle the earth twice. Wow. Sitting right here, sitting right there. It's an amazing concept. And at the same time, some concepts are so grand, they're so vast, I can't really wrap my head around them. I love this quote from Ama Ata Aidu, who is a Ghanaian scholar and playwright. Says, "I have only been able to use a language that enslaved me, and therefore the messengers of my mind always come shackled." We think about who we are, and how we put all that together. Paul Michel Foucault says, "It has to be conceived as an attitude, a philosophical life in which the critique of what we are is at one and the same time the historical analysis of the limits that are imposed on us, and an experiment with the possibility of going beyond them." So this issue around who we are right here in this moment on this planet, it wasn't just a couple of days ago I was on Facebook, as many of us I know are, kind of into all of that, and this wonderful information came across my screen about the Sombrero Galaxy, which the new Hubble is now seeing out there in outer space, 125 million light years away. Wow. How do you wrap your head around that? That's amazing. And it has 800 million suns like ours. Wow. It's just, how do you hold it? It's astounding. This mystery that we're a part of. And even all of that is so much made up of empty space. So, I'm always trying to relate the Dharma to also to, this is, astrology and subatomic physics, but brain science is also really, because that really is the truth of a moment, what's actually going on in our brains, And, with all these MRI scanning that they're doing these days, this imaging, they're seeing where fear resides in the brain, where morality sits, love, lust, arousal. All kinds of things are actually located in the brain, and when, the amygdala, for example, is where threat or fear is housed, and, the brain has two sides, so there's one on either side. So they're actually seeing, when they're doing this imaging and they're bringing stimulus to the people that they're scanning, that certain things actually exist in a certain part of our brains. But when they've tried to locate identity, there are these little sparks here and there, but nothing really lights up. It doesn't really show up in the brain like fear would, or love, or morality. So it's really interesting when you think about all of that. And, I feel like, I guess that's why we come to practice. We sit in meditation, as we did just a moment ago, in order to experience and understand what's really going on in this moment as we sense it, experience it, And there's no better way to try to come, for me, there has been no better way to try to come to some clarity of what's really going on. And, I don't know if we've all had, we've probably had similar experiences, but there has been times, and I think you pointed to it really beautifully, there have been times in meditation for me, and they've been very few and far between, even though I've been sitting for over 9 years now, where the sense of I, me, and mine sort of evaporated. I was with a larger reality than what's sitting in this sack of skin, That I was in touch with something larger, something more vast. The notion of I sort of faded. It melted into something greater. So, I would love to try the exercise that I had mentioned to you. And, I really believe in putting our practice to work and trying to do something experiential. If you would, just resume your meditation postures just for a moment. And before you do that, let me just ask you this, because we're all we've got various ages here. But if I asked you to send a note to a friend, would you send an email or text it on a phone? Or would you write it longhand with a pen and maybe send a postcard? So how many people would actually use a pen? Okay? Yeah, great. So in the context of this then, I want you to, before we sit here just for a moment, I want you to choose your preferred mode of communication, right? So if it's a pen, I ask you to, imagine a pencil, and with an eraser, yeah? And, those of us that use keyboards, well, that, self-explanatory. Okay, so again, just taking a few deep breaths to sort of clear, and to again center yourself in this very present moment. And you might use a single-pointed concentration to again get in touch with your breath, if that is something that is your practice, however it is that you do center it. Deep breaths always encourage relaxation. Those are encouraged. Come to a relaxed state. Calm. And in this relaxed state, consider this statement. I am blank, where you would insert your name, sitting here now. You might write that with a pencil, or you might type that in your phone or on your screen, your computer screen. I am blank, sitting here now. Again, relax. This is not a test. This does not need to be scary. It just is a moment associated with the many arisings that we have about every moment as we experience them. So I encourage you to remove the last word of your sentence. So if you put a period on it, move your cursor to the end and backspace and delete the last word. If you wrote it with a pencil, erase that last word. And take a deep breath. I am blank, sitting here. Notice the subtlety if there's any changes for you. And now again, removing the last word of the sentence. I am blank, sitting. And as we breathe, let's try to encourage even more relaxation and greater concentration with each breath. I am blank sitting. And again, removing the last word, however you would choose to do that. Breathing for relaxation. I am blank. Just that. Again, deep breath. And again, removing the last word, backspacing over your name or erasing it with the rubber on your pencil. You're left with I am. Again, focusing on your relaxation and your concentration. Removing another word. You're left with just one word, one last word. And breathe into that. And let it go. Noticing any resistance or willingness, feelings that are arising, thoughts as they occur. And of course now removing the final word, I, so that you're left with a blank screen or a blank note card. The notions of I, me, mine often need strategies for survival. Without them, all that's left is wonder. So thank you for your practice. How was that? Yes.
As I was letting go of each word, I felt like I was getting away from the everyday mundane to actually a more spiritual aspect of myself, and I could picture that. And it was, I mean, I got to the point of just seeing just bright white light, and that was it.
Good. Nice. Thank you. Others?
And then for me, it's like losing time, space, and then eventually go to emptiness. So kind of non-self. So it's wonderful.
Just what we were hoping for. I know when I did this on retreat, I'd been on retreat for 4 days of total silence, sitting for about 12 hours a day. And, just sort of one word at a time, and then, it's sort of like I was working with a computer screen, and that last delete, over the last word. It was a little difficult for me. But then when I did it and I thought, I don't exist, I was sitting with 90 people, and immediately my connection to them was so pronounced. As soon as I lost my sense of self, my sense of connection increased, Yes?
I have to say that when I let go of I was terrified and thought that I was going to fall into an abyss.
I appreciate that, and I know that feeling really well. Yes?
To me, it was a little bit like letting go of baggage, backspacing each one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sort of a reduction.
Right. I don't mean heavy baggage, I mean just stuff.
Yeah. Nice. Yes?
To me, it's like sometimes when a glorious sunset just catches my attention and stops my mind, and there's no, of course now I say glorious sunset, but there's no commentary. It's just stunning, and there's no, you can't put it in your pocket or try to think about it. Say that just, flows.
You're just in the moment.
Yeah.
Yes. Nice. Anyone else? I think that it's a remarkable experience when we start to lose ourselves. It can bring up feelings of terror, because if we don't exist, then what do we have, and where might we be going or falling, and what might we be falling into? Or actually we can sort of be one with the sunset, that it can be also a glorious moment, or feel lighter, or move, have a sense of ourselves moving towards a greater spiritual identity. So, in that experience, I invite all of you to sort of just evaluate for yourself what was lost and what was gained, Because, in fact, one of the core teachings of the Buddha is this concept of no self. And now with the microscopes, they're finding that he was absolutely right, that there's very little matter in what we think of as matter, right? So in Buddha's Brain, by a fellow named Rick Hansen, he says, the point here isn't to defend or justify the self, but neither should we demean or suppress it. Just don't make self special. It's simply an arising mental pattern that's not categorically different from or better than any other mind formation. No need to resist the self. No need to make it a problem. The practice is to see through it and encourage it to relax, to dissipate, like morning fog clearing under the sun. And what's left? Open-hearted spaciousness, wisdom, values and virtues, and a soft, sweet joy. So I would like to encourage you to again break into, this time maybe groups of 3, and just sort of what you might not have been willing to or able to say to the large group, just talk about your experience of that little meditation practice that we had. Just a couple of minutes each. So 6 minutes. Groups of 3. How did that feel for you? Please make sure everyone gets a chance to speak. 2 more minutes. So Dzogchen Honlop in The Mind Beyond Death says this: if we are neither in the past nor in the future, then where are we? If we truly penetrate this experience, there is a sense of non-conceptuality, of clear awareness without thought. At this point, we begin to encounter the sense of dissolution that occurs constantly in our pleasant life, but is almost never noticed. When thought dissolves, we dissolve with it. Whoever we think we are dissolves into awareness that is free of the concepts of self. In that very moment, we can directly experience the non-solidity of phenomena, the reality of emptiness. At the same time, there is so much energy present, so much so that it forms into another moment. The energy brings us a sense of clarity that is so sharp, it is like a clear mirror in which mind can at last recognize itself. In this mirror of mind, we see the radiant yet transparent nature of our own awareness. So, any more comments or questions? We have a few minutes here. Yes.
I was in a situation during this last week when someone said, during the last year since the earthquake in Haiti, the U.S. government, or I don't know if he meant the government or American people, had sent $1.3 billion to Haiti, and we should take care of our own first. And so it brought up for me, before I had the words for it, that you talked about today, about this idea of identity. I asked this person, what is there about the people who are living there that make them not our own? You know, where's your dividing line? And I had my blood pressure taken the day before at the doctor, and I thought, boy, I'm glad that it's not hooked up to me now. Really felt my blood pressure rising over the sensitivity of his statement. But I'd be curious to hear.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I believe I'm both of those. You know, it's sort of like, it's very easy for me, given that we have so much information coming at us all the time now. We know about what happened in Haiti. You know, 80 years ago we might not have even heard about it, but we know today. We see images of it. They're coming at us constantly through the news or on the internet or whatever. And I've also felt like, you know, it's like there's so much money going out of the country, you know, that we're in a recession and things are troubled, and, you know, it's hard for us too. And I wish, not so much for Haiti, but my personal is I wish we weren't spending so much on war in other countries, and that money was actually staying here to take care of our own, right? So I understand both sides of that. And I guess the issue is, you know, or how I would perceive that is that, and I try to do this daily, is that it's just another arising, you know? This is an arising for me, is that I'm feeling compassion. And I wonder why this person can't empathize with the compassion or see it. And that person is seeing other. And that's the arising that's happening for them. It's we, them, even though maybe you don't agree with that duality. They're living in it. That's their experience. And so the arising then for you is different. And, you know, you can certainly get upset about it or notice the difference, or, you know, it's just another arising. And that the fact of the matter is that your arising is no better or worse or anything really than theirs. It's just how you feel about it. And this is the joy of impermanence, is that whatever the arising is, it will end. Just like, you know, we will end, and our help to Haiti will end, or the earthquake ended, or, you know, hopefully the wars will end, you know. So everything does come to an end. Does that help? Yes?
You're affiliated with an Affinity Sangha, and you see before you today an Affinity Sangha. We're not only a bunch of men, we're a bunch of gay men. Mm-hmm. I could go on. How do you feel that choice that we're making feeds these senses of identity that you're talking about.
That's, it's something I've really thought about, and I thank you, David, for bringing it up, because, I sit with other gay men of color. I love this Sangha. I've come here many times, and all the other gay sits that we have about town. Really quite a luxury when you think about it, when you think about all the brothers and sisters that have preceded us, that sat in communities where they were not allowed to bring all of who they are to that community for years and years, sort of. And yet, helping to lay the groundwork, which allows us to sit in shared identity here today. It is quite a luxury. And I think for me, it's just a question of safety, that there are things we would talk about here that we would not talk about if there were maybe straight people in the room, or if there were maybe women in the room. That there are things that are common to our experience that we have some safety about, that allows us to self-disclose and to talk about those things that are maybe more troubling. And we feel safe doing that with one another. And so at the same time that I say, for a grain of salt, this identity stuff is just another arising, it's also really important, right? It's really important in order to be able to get to those places where you can sort of face the fears about what it means to be, to have identity be just another arising. So, I'm really all for those, like what we just had at Spirit Rock in November, the LBGT 7-day sit, there's something going on there that's special, or when people of color get together as special, or whatever it may be, whatever the affinity group. I say whatever brings you to the table and brings the safety, because it was and Carl, we were on the same sit together, I think that first one with Arena Weissman and Larry Yang, who's my mentor teacher. That was my Dharma gate. It was that little 3-day, I think it was, retreat that really sort of started my compelled me to look deeper, But I don't think that would have happened. And I know because I've gone to sits where it was a mixed group, and it's a very different experience. But again, they're all just arisings. Does that help?
Thank you. It's background this morning.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your practice.
Thanks. So, do we have any announcements this morning before we break?
I just want to remind the group that we have an account at the Community Thrift. It's on Valencia around 17th, and it's painted various shades of pepto-bismol pink. You can't miss it. There's some donations between 10 and 5 every day. It helps the Sangha finance, run the Sangha, and also helps the Sangha in its philanthropy, which not everyone may be aware of. So if you have anything you'd like to donate, you can get a tax-deductible receipt. And we've been averaging about $300 to $400 a month, and we're kind of down from the last quarter. So if there's anything in the new year you want to get rid of, and probably call them first and ask them, because there's a whole long list of things they don't take. But it would be much appreciated. Thanks.
Our speaker for next Sunday is Anne Diedrich. She is a graduate of Spirit Rock, but besides that, she is also a meditator, Vipassana meditation practitioner, and has worked with the Marin Family Service Agency with adults and children, helping them keep depression at bay. So please come to that. And I have a query. If anyone here knows the San Francisco Zen Center and their routine well, then if you could talk to me, I need to take some of my students there for a field trip, and I've never gone, so it would help.
Do we have a host today?
Yes, my name is Roger in the house. We have some tea out there, and if you do have tea, please rinse your cup with there'll be a tub of hot soapy water in the sink. We have some snacks as well, Meyer lemon muffins, some fresh fruit, and some almonds. There is a sign-up list in the corner, just as you go out to the right out these doors, if you'd like to sign up for the email list. And I'll be coming around with a Donna bowl for what is the requested donation is 5?
5 to 8.
5 to 8, okay. And then usually a few people go out to lunch together, meeting, it's very informal, meet at the front door around 12:30.
John, will you take this out?
Sure. So taking a moment to again center ourselves and recognize our practice here together and the comfort and joy it brings. Recognizing and bringing into the room too all those people who cannot, for a wide range of reasons, are unable to practice peace as we have done today. May we hold them in our hearts as well. And recognizing that our practice here is not just for ourselves, but extends to all beings everywhere. May we all be safe and free of harm. May our lives be characterized by ease and well-being. May we be strong and healthy. And may we increase our peace of mind and continue to grow peace in our hearts.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.